Okay, I need you to go ahead and turn your book to page 363. We are going to compare in order integers, so turn to page 363. This lesson should go by fairly simple, as we learned what an integer was a couple days ago. An integer, just for a refresher, is a positive or a negative whole number and zero. So it cannot be a decimal, it cannot be a fraction, it has to be a whole number, and it's either positive or negative. So let's take a look at this question right here. It says, in Fairbanks, which is located in interior Alaska, the average temperature for several months is shown. Okay, so when we take a look at this, let's take a look at number 1. It says the average temperature for December is negative 6.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and the average temperature for March is 11 degrees Fahrenheit. Label December and March on the thermometer. So if you can take a look down here, we are going to label March and December. So December 6.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So notice that we are talking about negative 6.5. So we're talking it's probably right about here. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. And again, mine's not going to be very good because I don't have a very sharp area to work with here. Okay, so negative 6.5, so that's December, and then March is 11 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to say 11 is probably right about, that's not very good, but close enough. 11 degrees Fahrenheit there. Which months have the greater average temperature than February? So when we're looking at February, we want to know which months are greater than that. And we can notice the ones that are above it are November and March. Okay, those are the ones that are above, so therefore their temperature is greater. Which months have a lower temperature than November? So when I look at November, which is right here, which ones are lower? Well, it's going to be February. And then remember, this one we labeled was December. And then we also see that January is less than that as well. It says complete the inequality to compare the temperatures of November and February. Now let's talk about this. If we're talking about an inequality is using greater than, less than, or equal to. Those are called inequalities. Okay, so when we're talking about an inequality, we're using one of those signs, greater than, less than, or equal to. Remember, the alligator always eats the bigger number, okay? So if we're taking a look at November, which they said was 3 degrees, okay, and then we need to look at February, which is negative 4 degrees, we can see that 3 is greater than negative 4, which is true, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to work on comparing and ordering integers. And by doing so, we are going to be using those greater than, less than, or equal to signs. So the first thing we want to do when we are comparing integers is we want to compare the signs. So we want to make sure that we're looking to see if the numbers are positive or negative. Okay, so that's the first thing we're always going to look at. So when I look at these, I see that that is negative 3. And then I see that this plot right there is 2. Okay, now what do I know? I know that negative 3 is less than 2. Now they switched it and wrote 2 is greater than negative 3. It is the exact same thing. The alligator is still eating the bigger number. So even if I switch this and say 2 is greater than negative 3, my alligator, just like they taught you in like 4th grade, always eats the bigger number. So let's take a look at that. So you can compare the signs. The next thing that you can do is you can compare the position on the number line. So if you're not sure about which number's greater, which number's least, if they're the same, is you can make a number line. So here I have negative 3 and negative 2. So since negative 2 is farther to the right, negative 2 is greater than negative 3. Since negative 2 is farther to the right, meaning that it's closest to 0, farthest to the right, that is going to make it greater than. So negative 2 is greater than negative 3. Okay, let's take a look at this. We're going to fill in with less than, greater than, or equal to make the sentence true. 12 and negative 4. So if we look at the number line, the one that is farthest to the right is going to be greater than. So here I see that 12 is farthest to the right, so 12 is greater than negative 4. Excuse me. Okay, let's take a look at these problems. So negative 3 and negative 5. So if we were to think of a number line, just in case if you're getting a little confused, and I have 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, then I'm going to have negative 4. Which one's going to be to the farthest to the right? That's going to be negative 3. Therefore, negative 3 is greater than negative 5. Okay, if I'm looking here at this one, B, negative 5 is greater than, less than, or equal to 0. Negative 5 is less than 0. Now, when you're looking at a positive and a negative number, always your positive number is going to be greater than. So 6 is greater than negative 1. Okay, let's take a look at this next one. Number 2. Whoops. Justin has a score of negative 4 on the Trueville trivia game. Desiree's score is negative 5. Write an inequality to compare the scores. Explain the meaning of the inequality. Oh my goodness. Okay. So negative 4 is greater than negative 5. So if you think about it again on your number line, okay, if this is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, okay, negative 5 is greater than negative 4, is greater than negative 5. So Justin has a higher score than Desiree, is what we would find out. All right, let's take a look at D. It says the temperature on Tuesday was 2 degrees and the temperature on Wednesday was negative 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Write an inequality to compare the temperatures. Explain the meaning of the inequality. So we are comparing 2 and negative 2. Well, when I'm looking at positives and negatives, we always know that positives are always greater than. So 2 is greater than negative 2. So what does that tell me? It tells me, explain the meaning of the inequality. It tells me that the temperature on Tuesday, was greater than Wednesday. Okay? It was greater than Wednesday, which is true. So because this was Tuesday's temperature and this was Wednesday's temperature. So if we think of it that way, Tuesday was greater than Wednesday, so therefore the temperature was greater on Tuesday than it was on Wednesday. All right, now that we have learned how to compare the integers, which is not anything new, using greater than, less than, or equal to signs, and using number lines if we get stuck, we're going to work on ordering integers. So ordering integers up here, you can use a number line to order a set of integers. Integers can be ordered from least to greatest or from greatest to least. Now, when we are taking a quiz or a test, this is so important that you make sure you read if they want you to go from least to greatest or greatest to least. Always pay attention to that because some of you might accidentally make the mistake and flip it around. So let's take a look at this example here. It says order the set of this number. So we have negative 9, 6, negative 3, and 0. So the first method that we could do is we could make a number line. So notice they have made a number line right here, and they have put negative 9, negative 3, 0, and 6. Based off of this, we can go in order, and it says from least to greatest. So therefore, negative 9 is first, that's the smallest, then negative 3, then 0, then 6. The next thing that we could do is we could compare the signs, okay, and the values. So basically, we can look at the positives and then we can look at the negatives. So if I look at negative 9 and negative 3, I know that negative 9 is less than negative 3. And so therefore, I know that my negative 9 is going to go first. And then because of that, my negative 3 is going to be next because I have no other negative numbers. So now I can look at 6 and 0, and I know that 6 is greater than 0, which means 0 is going to come next, and 6 is going to be my greatest number. Okay, so taking a look at your positives and negatives are always a good thing to start with if you don't want to create a number line. All right, let's take a look at this. It says order the set of numbers from greatest to least. So now we're doing opposite, not going from least to greatest, but now greatest to least. So let's first mark these on the number line. So -4 is going to go right here. And then I have 3, which that might go like right here. And then 11, which will go right about there. And then -25, which would go right about there. So make sure that you have your dots all lined up. So we're going to put them in order from greatest to least, which means we're starting with the numbers that are on the right side. So that first number is 11. So we're going to order these. It's going to be 11. That's my biggest number. After my 11, I get 3, and I'm going to cross them off to make sure I use them all. And then -4. And then the last one is -25. We have just ordered them from greatest to least. Now let's take a look at this next one. It says order the set from least to greatest. So now we're flipping it from least to greatest. So taking a look at -18, we're going to mark 30, and then we're going to mark 12, and then -6, and then 3. So now we're going from least to greatest. So we're just going to go in order. -18 here. That one's done. Then it was -6. Cross that one off. This one was 3. Cross that one off. And then it was 12. Cross that one off. And then it was 30. And so we have now ordered them from least to greatest, meaning my negative numbers are first all the way up to my positives. Okay, go ahead and turn your page, and we're going to do some practice problems right down here on the guided practice on page 366. So, super easy, starting off with 17 and 31. 17 is obviously less than 31. -6 and 10. So think about a number line, okay? If you have -6 here, then you have -7, -8, -9, -10. Therefore, -6 is greater than -10. And then let's take a look at this one. So -38. So think about it. -38 is going to come first, you know, 0 is all the way down here. And then we're going to keep going. And then we're going to get to -83. So the one that is farthest to the right is greatest, which means -83 is less than -38. All right, let's take a look at this question. Andrew and his father are scuba diving at -38 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and write -38 feet because I'm probably going to have to write an inequality. And the Tackle Box Canyon has an elevation of -83 feet. Well, isn't this kind of crazy? They're using the same numbers as number 3. What in the world? Can you believe that? And I just now noticed this. Anyways, it says write an inequality to compare the depths. So -38 is greater than -83. So we're going to explain the meaning of this. And we know that the tackle box is lower than where they're scuba diving at. Is lower than scuba diving. Okay? So all we're doing is just explaining that because of that, we know that the Tackle Box Canyon is lower than where they're actually scuba diving at. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. Number 5 says the daily low temperatures in Kate's hometown last week were 2, -9, -18, -6, 3, 0, and -7, all in degrees Celsius. Order the temperatures from greatest to least. So let's start off with all of our positive numbers. Okay, so that's a positive, this one's a positive, and I think that's it. And 0, remember, is neither positive nor negative, so we're going to place 0 in the middle. So we're starting off with the greatest, 3 and 2. 3 is greatest, then 2, so I'm going to cross those off, and then I'm going to be left with 0. So now let's look at our negatives. We have -7, -9, -18, -6. Well, on the number line, we know that -6 is going to come first. when we're going to our left, and then -7, so -6, -7, -9, -18. Now, let's take a look at that on a number line. Create this number line with me, and I'm going to go in twos. So, 0, and then 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, and then -2, -4, -6, -8, -10, -12, and I'm running out of room, so I'm just going to put -18 over here because that's the biggest one that we're going to get to. Okay, so here's my 3. There's 2. Actually, let me undo that, and let's change color so we can see them a little bit better. So there's 3. There's 2. I don't know why it does that. I'm not sure. Okay. Double good riddance. Okay, let's try that again. Sometimes this thing just, you guys know, it goes a little crazy. Okay. Here we go. Keep on trying. 2. Oh my goodness. Why is it doing that? All right. 2. Okay. And then what did I say? 0. And then -6. I don't want to do that. -6. Okay. All right. You guys are probably done with yours, and I'm still working on mine because mine's being annoying. Okay. -6. Negative. Okay. You guys know what to do. This is not working for me. For some reason, it keeps wanting to like move. So -6, negative. Okay. You get it. But anyways, when we see that, we will see that it lined up just fine. Of course, this thing's acting all finicky again. It will line up just fine when we put them in order from greatest to least. Okay, flip over to the next page. And let's just take a look at 4 and 5, and then we're going to be done. So we're going to look at 4 and 5 together. Amy's building a house. The basement of the floor is -15 feet, and the roof of the house is above ground at 25 feet. Write an inequality and explain the meaning. So -15 feet is less than -25 feet. So explain the meaning of the inequality. So the roof, basically, the roof is greater height than the basement. You could also say that the basement is of less height than the roof, obviously. So you can flip it however you want to say it. It doesn't matter one way or another, because even if you have 25 is greater than -15, that's still the exact same inequality. All right, let's take a look at number 5. The low temperature in Anchorage, Alaska, one day was -9 degrees Fahrenheit. On the same day, the low temperature in Flagstaff, Arizona was 26 degrees Fahrenheit. So we are going to talk about -9 degrees Fahrenheit and 26 degrees Fahrenheit. So we know that -9 is less than 26 degrees. So what are we really saying? We are saying that Alaska is much colder than Flagstaff or than Arizona, okay? Is much colder than Arizona. All you're doing is just explaining what these numbers mean. So these numbers mean, this number means the degrees in Alaska, and this number means the degrees in Arizona, and then you're just going to compare them. Okay, so that is what you have for your lesson today. I told you it was super easy. Your homework is, practice lesson. So practice lesson 5-3, and you're going to do numbers 1 through 15 odd. Okay, numbers 1 through 15 odd, and then you're going to do 17 through 20 all. Okay, these go on Connect Ed. Okay, so make sure you get them put on Connect Ed. So practice lesson 5-3, numbers 1 through 15 odd, 17 through 20 all. If you are still unsure about this lesson, go back and rewatch it. Go back and take a look and read talking about ordering integers, everything right there tells you exactly what to do. Go back and reread comparing comparing integers and how we do it with the greater than, less than. Just remember that alligator always eats the bigger number.